The rain was coming down in sheets as I stepped off the bus, the chill of that autumn evening seeping into my bones while I stared up at the old family estate, once the center of my entire world. I had not seen this place in 9 long years, not since the day I was disowned and cast out like a stray. Now, with my life rebuilt and my spirit unbreakable, I returned. Every heartbeat pounded with the memory of betrayal and the fierce determination of survival. I was coming back to confront the past, to show them that the girl they'd cast aside had grown into a force of nature, and that what they once deemed lost was now something they could only watch in awe. I still remember the day I left home, the day I was told my existence was no longer welcome in the family. The rejection was quiet, almost clinical, hushed voices, a few tearful glances, and a final, icy dismissal that left my heart in pieces. I was 16 then, desperate and confused, clinging to the hope that someday I'd prove them wrong. 9 years of exile followed, a period marked by struggles to survive on my own, moments of crushing loneliness, and countless nights questioning my self-worth. I traveled from city to city, working odd jobs and learning to fend for myself in a world that seemed determined to forget me. I took every setback as a challenge, every rejection as a spark for change. I discovered a passion for art and writing, channeling my heartbreak into creativity and forging a new identity away from the shadows of my family's contempt. Living on the fringes, I built a life from the ground up. A small apartment, a modest but steadily growing art career, a circle of friends who became my chosen family. I learned to find beauty in solitude, strength in independence, and joy in the little victories that marked each day. I traveled, I studied, and I grew. And slowly, bit by bit, I became the woman I had always dreamed of being, confident, self-assured, and unafraid to love fiercely and live boldly. Now, as I approached the ivy-covered gates of the family estate once more, every memory flooded back. The laughter around the dinner table, the gentle teasing at holiday gatherings, and the moments when I had thought that our love was unconditional. I recalled the bitter words that had sealed my fate, that I was not worthy of being called family, that I was too different, too independent, too stubborn. Yet I had also learned that being true to oneself was the greatest victory of all. I took a deep breath and pushed open the gate, its creak echoing in the silent night. The estate was unchanged in its grandeur, yet every corner now held the weight of my absence, of the years I had spent away building a new life. I made my way along the familiar winding path toward the front door, my footsteps slow and measured, each step a testament to the courage it had taken to return. Inside, the foyer was bathed in soft light from ornate chandeliers, the air thick with memories and unspoken regrets. I paused before the grand staircase, recalling the time when I used to run up and down these very steps, laughter echoing around me as my siblings chased each other in a whirlwind of carefree joy. Now the silence was deafening, a stark contrast to the vibrant life I remembered. I knew that tonight I would confront those who had once disowned me, and I was determined to leave them speechless. The reunion was not planned. I had not announced my return. I wanted it to be a surprise, a reckoning that would force them to face the woman I had become. I slipped quietly into the drawing room where the family had gathered for an impromptu dinner. The atmosphere was tense, the conversation hushed as if every soul sensed that something monumental was about to unfold. I could see my mother, my father, and even my estranged siblings glancing at one another, uncertainty and something like regret flickering in their eyes. Then I saw him, my older brother, whom they had once proclaimed was the one to take over the family legacy. He was seated at the head of the table, his posture rigid, his gaze fixed on a faded photograph that I recognized as a memory of happier times. For a moment, I hesitated, my heart pounding with both anger and sorrow. I knew that tonight I had a choice, to confront them with bitterness or to show them that I had grown beyond their rejection. Summoning every ounce of strength, I walked to the center of the room. The conversation fell silent as all eyes turned toward me. I cleared my throat, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "I'm back," I said simply. "And I'm not leaving again." There was a pregnant pause, a moment of stunned silence that seemed to stretch on forever. My family looked at me, some with shock, others with guilt, and I could feel their eyes searching for an explanation for the reasons behind my unexpected return. I continued, "You disowned me 9 years ago. You told me I was not worthy of being in this family, that I was too different, too stubborn. I left, and I spent those years building a life that you never believed I could have. I found strength in my solitude, passion in my work, and I discovered that the only validation I needed was my own. Tonight, I return not to beg for forgiveness, but to show you that I have become something far greater than you ever imagined." A murmur rippled through the room as I spoke, the weight of my words settling over us like a heavy cloak. My father's eyes glistened with unshed tears, and my mother's face was a mix of regret and sorrow. My siblings exchanged glances, some avoiding my gaze, others meeting my eyes with a mixture of admiration and shame. The tension in the room was palpable. Every person present seemed to be grappling with their own memories of the past, of the hurt they had inflicted or endured. I continued, for years I struggled to understand why I was cast aside, why my existence was deemed an inconvenience. I've come to learn that the value of a person is not measured by the acceptance of others, but by the strength of their character. And tonight, I stand before you not as the girl you once disowned, but as a woman who has faced rejection and emerged stronger, wiser, and unafraid. My voice grew steadier with each word, each sentence a reaffirmation of my worth and my determination to reclaim my narrative. The silence that followed was overwhelming, a silence filled with the weight of unspoken apologies, regrets, and the realization that they had been wrong. My brother finally spoke, his voice low and laced with a mixture of shame and awe. "Sarah," he said, we never expected you to come back like this. You've changed. We're sorry." His words, though halting, resonated in the quiet room, and I could see that even those who had once rejected me were now confronted with the undeniable truth of my resilience. That night, as the family sat together in a tentative circle, the old wounds were laid bare in a way that was both painful and cathartic. We talked for hours, about the past, about the mistakes that had been made, and about the possibility of forging a new future built on honesty and understanding. It wasn't an easy conversation. The years of estrangement had left deep scars, and some wounds would never fully heal. But there was a glimmer of hope, a recognition that while the past could not be changed, the future was still open to possibility. In the weeks and months that followed, I embarked on a slow, deliberate process of reconciliation. I attended family gatherings not as a pawn in old dramas, but as an equal, a person with her own dreams, aspirations, and boundaries. I began to understand that while I could never erase the pain of being disowned, I could redefine my relationship with my family on my own terms. I learned to set boundaries, clear, unwavering limits that ensured I would no longer be treated as an afterthought. I also made a conscious decision to forgive, not for their sake but for my own healing. Forgiveness, I discovered, was a journey, a gradual letting go of the bitterness that had once threatened to consume me. There were moments of deep introspection as I revisited my childhood memories, of times when I had felt small, insignificant, and overlooked. I remembered the lullabies my mother sang, the way my father's proud smile would light up the room during family outings, and the warm, joyful chaos of our home. Those memories were bittersweet now, a reminder of what had once been and what had been lost. Yet, they also became the foundation upon which I rebuilt my identity, a recognition that my worth had never been defined by their rejection, but by the strength and love I had cultivated within myself. As I continued to mend the rift, I also reconnected with friends who had stood by me during the darkest days of my exile. Marissa, Elena, and others who had never wavered in their support became my chosen family, a network of individuals who valued honesty, authenticity, and the unyielding spirit of resilience. Together, we organized small get-togethers, celebrated birthdays, and shared our stories of overcoming adversity. Their unwavering love and acceptance helped me see that family is not just defined by blood, but by the connections we forge through empathy and understanding. Over the next year, my relationship with my family transformed slowly. The initial shock of my return gave way to tentative conversations, long overdue apologies, and a shared recognition of the pain that had been inflicted. My parents, once so resolute in their decision to disown me, began to understand that their actions had been driven by fear, the fear that my independence, my authenticity, might disrupt the carefully maintained facade of family unity. They expressed regret for the hurt they had caused, and while the wounds were deep, there was a genuine desire to mend the broken ties. I began to attend family therapy sessions with them, a process that was neither quick nor easy, but one that allowed us to speak honestly about our feelings, to confront the past without judgment, and to slowly rebuild trust. There were days filled with raw emotion, arguments that left us all teary and exhausted, and moments when it seemed like the past would never be forgiven. But there were also moments of breakthrough, a gentle smile here, a tentative hug there, that hinted at the possibility of a future where we could coexist with respect and understanding. Throughout this journey, I continued to focus on my personal growth and career. I expanded my freelance graphic design business, taking on projects that allowed me to explore new creative avenues and collaborate with innovative clients. I even started teaching design workshops at a local community center, sharing the skills I had honed over the years with eager, young minds. These professional achievements not only boosted my confidence but also helped me redefine my identity outside of the painful legacy of my family's rejection. I realized that my success was not a measure of their acceptance, but a celebration of my resilience and ingenuity. As the seasons changed, from the bitter cold of winter to the hopeful bloom of spring, I began to embrace a future that was entirely my own. I traveled, I painted, I wrote, and I continued to nurture the relationships that mattered to me. Every new day was a reminder that while the scars of the past might never fully vanish, they no longer held me captive. I had turned my pain into a powerful source of inspiration, using it to fuel my art, my writing, and my journey toward a life defined by authenticity, strength, and self-love. Now, nearly 9 years after I was disowned by my family, I stand as a testament to the transformative power of resilience. My return was not a moment of revenge, but a declaration that I had grown beyond the confines of their rejection. A declaration that I was worthy, capable, and unstoppable. When I walked through the doors of the old family estate on that fateful evening, my presence left them speechless. There were no grand speeches, no dramatic confrontations, only a quiet, unyielding assurance in my eyes that said, "I have become everything you once doubted." That night, as we gathered in the dimly lit drawing room, I watched as my family struggled to reconcile the person I had become with the daughter they had once cast aside. My mother's eyes filled with tears, my father's face was a mixture of regret and disbelief, and my siblings exchanged awkward glances, as if trying to comprehend the magnitude of my transformation. In that charged atmosphere, I spoke softly but firmly. I left 9 years ago because I was not seen, not valued, not loved. Tonight, I return as the person I have become, strong, independent, and whole. I will no longer let your rejection define me. I have built my own family, my own dreams, and my own future. And I am here to remind you that love, true love, is unconditional, and that I am worthy of it despite everything. There was a long silence, a silence heavy with the weight of years lost and the painful recognition of mistakes made. And then, slowly, one by one, my family began to speak. There were apologies, murmured regrets, and even moments of heartfelt acknowledgement that perhaps, in their own flawed way, they had been wrong. It was not an instant reconciliation, but it was a start. A tentative step toward healing old wounds and redefining what it meant to be a family. In the months that followed, our interactions became more honest, more vulnerable. I attended family gatherings with a cautious optimism, always prepared for the possibility of old wounds reopening, but also hopeful that time and genuine effort could mend the fractures that had once seemed insurmountable. I began to understand that forgiveness was not about erasing the past, it was about accepting it as part of the tapestry of our lives, a tapestry that was now richer and more complex than before. I learned to set boundaries, to demand the respect I deserved, and to cherish the relationships that uplifted me, even as I continued to navigate the complicated legacy of my family. I continued to build my own life with unwavering determination. I advanced in my career, secured a modest but fulfilling income from my freelance projects, and even began mentoring others who had faced similar family betrayals. Every small success, every new friendship, every moment of quiet joy became a building block in the future I was crafting. A future where I was defined not by rejection, but by my own resilience and the strength to overcome. I traveled, I created, I loved, and I embraced the possibility of new beginnings. I even found a supportive partner who valued my independence and admired the journey that had made me who I was. A woman of substance, of passion, and of unbreakable spirit. Looking back now as I sit in the gentle twilight of a crisp autumn evening, I reflect on the long, winding path that led me here, a path marked by heartbreak, betrayal, and ultimately redemption. My family's decision to disown me once felt like the end of my world. But in truth, it was the catalyst for the most transformative period of my life, a time when I discovered the true measure of my strength and the boundless possibilities that lay ahead. I returned, not to seek forgiveness or validation, but to show that I had become so much more than they ever imagined. I left them speechless, not out of revenge, but because I had risen above the pain, embraced my worth, and built a future that was entirely my own. This is my story, a story of a girl once cast aside, who transformed rejection into resilience, and who, 9 years later, returned to the very place that had once betrayed her to reclaim her power. It is a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the face of profound betrayal, we have the capacity to rise, to rebuild, and to redefine our destinies. And as I continue to move forward, I carry with me the unshakable belief that my worth is not determined by the actions of others, but by the courage with which I live my life, every single day.